Hey guys, I believe I'm live. All right, I'm excited today. I got so much great material to show you guys. We have a good hour together. It's packed. We are going to cover only sketching, and I'm super excited about it. I want to say hi. I have of you guys that are already in the chat. Pana, Gerald, Soriano, Mahmoudreza, sorry for the mispronunciation. Follow Jux, Abi, Dupe, Ella, Nick, Monica, Dan, Nudi, Emez. Thank you guys. Jenge, Sandra. Sandra, I wanted to watch this, but I have to go out. Will be available later. Yes, you'll be able to watch the replay. Hi guys, welcome, welcome to all of you, and welcome for all of you on Instagram as well. Mija, how you doing? Thanks for letting me know about my art. Appreciate the comment. All right, so I'm not going to waste too much time today, guys, because I got so much material I want to show you, and I have only 1 hour, and I want to make sure that you guys get not only the material to help you level up, but also that you'll be able to apply it. Because what I would love is for everybody to be able to actually create a portrait over the weekend. So you'll have today to do your sketch, and maybe tomorrow to do coloring. And if you do your portrait and then you share it in the Paintable tribe, that's the community that we have at Paintable, I'll make sure to have a look at it over the weekend or next week. So shall we jump and start this workshop? Let's do this. All right, so today I want to cover sketching, and I have a few notes here what I want to cover. I want to cover how to choose the right brush, because maybe some of you guys are actually beginners, and I think it's something that a lot of seasoned artists, professional artists, people that have experience kind of brush away. The brushes don't make the artist. I'm the first one to say it, but you might have some question about it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about it briefly to give you the points that I believe will make a good brush for sketching. After that, we're going to talk about how to sketch with shapes and form. They are the base of any portrait you'll see. The best construction method. I'm going to show you three from three amazing artists. I'm going to show you then how I interpret them into my 3 steps method. Creating professional looking sketch with the erase method. That's a method that I've been using for a few years now that I absolutely love. I'm going to show you how to do it. It creates just more depth in your sketches automatically, and it's super easy to do. And the art of less is more. What details to leave out, because details can become real complicated, and the idea is to really just do what you need to be able to add colors to them, right? That's the goal of a sketch. Except if you want to do a piece of artwork with the sketch, then you go ahead, you add a bunch of details, and that's awesome. But today what I want to show you is how to do a sketch to start a portrait. All right, I will have a Q&A at the end, okay guys? So I'm going to ignore the chat for a little bit and come back at you with a Q&A at the end. So if you have any question, I'll stay with you. I'll answer all of the questions, okay? But for now, I'm going to just jump right in, and here we go. Oh yeah, it says daily 5 on the picture, but it's not daily 5. Let me actually. I'm recycling. I'm recycling. Where's my camera? I'm recycling our daily 5 panel here. Here. So nobody is confused. What we are doing today is a portrait workshop, not a daily 5. All right, cool. So let me start. I wanted to show you a few of the sketches that I did this month. This month we were doing portraiture. Just so you have an idea of what I do, if you didn't know already. These are all portraits that I did in colors afterwards, so you can see the before and after. We'll talk about colors in more details tomorrow. I'll show you just a few more. So you have the before and after here. Where's the middle one? There it is. And then below, I'll show you all of these. I have this one. I think it's always interesting because it's hard to actually paint or imagine painting something from just lines. You don't see lines in life. And then rendering it into colors. So I just wanted to show you guys the before and after. I'll make sure the Instagram you guys are seeing as well. And my self-portrait that I did this month. So today we're going to cover just the sketches. And let's talk about first, I'm going to put that to the side a little bit so we don't get distracted for now. Let's talk about brushes. So there's so many brushes out there that you can have. And for me, a good brush for a sketch is any brush that has a little bit of transparency in it. If you're going in Photoshop, I'm going to open the brush that I like to use for my sketches. It's the Arrowhead. This is the brush that you can get during the Daily 5 brush pack. There's going to be a link in the description if you want it, or if you want the Daily 5 brush pack, you can go on to the Daily 5 challenge. You can type right now into the chat. There's an automation that I set up so you can get the link. Let me just check what is it, so you guys can get it. Sorry, tech and all that. If you are doing !Daily 5, !Daily 5 in the chat, you'll have a link to the page where you can download the same brushes I'm going to show you for free. So that's the brush that I love to use these days. It goes from small to big quite a bit, and it's a triangle shape for the head. But any brush that has a little bit of transparency, and that's what I wanted to show you in the panel here. So what you have here is shape dynamics. I'll show that to Instagram as well. Shape dynamics. So this will make the brush big and small depending on pressure sensitivity. And transfer, this will help with the transparency of the brush. Now, if you have a different software, they might be called differently, but usually those are very basic. I see you, Droopy, putting !Daily 5 and the automation doesn't fire up. Okay, now there you go. All right, if you all guys is doing it, there's going to be a bunch of links. But anyhow, so these are the two things. That will really help you to have a good brush. Now, you don't have to go fancy. You don't have to have, let's say, like me, the Arrowhead. Like I also like to use just the regular round brush. If you put it small enough, this is the hard edge brush that you also can get in the same pack. If you put it small enough, it's perfectly doing the job. For as long as you have some transparency and some hard. What it does, it mimics basically being able to press with an HB pen on a piece of paper. That's all you need. Now, I also have a brush that I created called the Scratchy, and this one, actually I'll zoom in so you guys see the texture, has a little bit of texture in it. And it's great. I used to really love like using this because it gives a little bit more of a feel for it. But truth be told, any kind of brush will do. The sketches are just there for you to be able to paint colors. So all I want to say here is whatever brush you use, make sure that there's transparency in it and a little bit of shape dynamic, goes big to small based on pressure sensitivity. That's all you need. But if you want to use the same one, then yeah, go pick up the Arrowhead in the Daily 5 brush pack. That's the one I'm going to use today. So that's for brushes. If you have any question, again, I'll have a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions about brushes, I'll answer all of them at the end. So now that we covered that, I want to cover sketching with shapes and form. And for that, I'm going to bring the pictures that we have here. So last week, I believe, I made Vote People, where there's like a yellow stars. That's the one that you guys really liked. So I'm going to use a few of those later on for this. But I want to talk about shapes. So there's shape design that you can see in a portrait even without knowing anatomy or even without knowing the foundation construction techniques that I'm going to teach you right after this. If you just have basic observation on a portrait, you'll be able to see those shapes. I'm going to create a new layer here and I'm going to paint over it. So if you're looking at here, for example, you see how the shadow here creates a line like this? And with the eyebrow, this could create almost like a triangle right there. Ears are basically just kind of like C shapes. You have like a very kind of like square jaw. The forehead is kind of like a prism. You have half a sphere here for the head. The eyes could literally just be like little circles here. The nose could be kind of like a diamond shape. The mouth could be just a circle like this with a line in this. When you're doing like simplification of the portrait like this in your mind and you try to see these different shapes, it will help you not only with proportions, but with stylization eventually. Let's do a few more like this. Here, if I'm taking the same one, here we don't see them much. And that's where having like the technique I'm going to show you right after this, I'm going to show over the Azzaro head, Riley method, and the Loomis method. And then I'm going to show you how I interpret those into my sketches. But once you don't know them necessarily, it's going to be hard, but there's a few landing marks that you can start your geometric shapes with this. The eyebrows will always show you the perspective of the face. So you see that one eyebrow is there, the other one is there. If you put a line in between those two, that's the perspective of the entire face. And then you can get to that corner to the ear, and that gives you kind of like a boxy shape. And that gives you like the idea of what's the perspective of that head. For Instagram, here it is. So we know that we're looking under the head right now. The camera is slightly under on that. She has a little bit her head turned like this, right? So it's important to think about this. But the same shape also can be put it like there's a triangle for the face here. Then you have like a square jaw, kind of a prism for the forehead. Here is a C. This is all simplification. The nose can be just like a kind of a triangle here and then a kind of a pyramid almost under it. Simplification is really going to help you down the line. And there's so many of my students that I see, they get blocked trying to make perfect lines from the get-go. When if you start with shapes like this is going to help you to really let go of your perfectionism and go to the next level. I'm going to show you all of this today. So right now, just take some notes because I'm going to show you how I implement this into a sketch afterwards. So that's for the shapes, shapes and form. Now let's dive into the next thing, which is the best construction method. There's three that are extremely popular, and those three are the same three that I've been using pretty much all my career, and I put them here. They are this is the Riley. Riley, I want to say Riley, I think. Probably a misspell here. There is the Azzaro head. And then you have let's put that on top. And then you have the Loomis method. These are three artists that created these techniques to help you. And I want to go through them just quickly before I show you how I use them in my sketches. Let's start with the Azzaro head. The Riley method. The Riley method is all about starting with a circle, and it's usually the hardest things. But you don't need to have a perfect circle. First of all, there's nothing such as perfect in life. Any circles can do like as close as possible as a circle. And then the line of the eyes is in the middle if you're looking straight at it. But you can imagine that this is a sphere. So you can imagine that it's like a elastic band. So if the person is looking up, the elastic band is going to go like this. And then you can find the middle of the face. And then you divide 3 parts to find the nose and then down the chin. And that's how you basically build portraits. Let's say there's a nose like this. And it's a very good way to kind of understand how to build from imagination. But it can be a little bit difficult when you have only that, because to me it's kind of like far of a portrait necessarily. But this is a method that I like to practice to help, especially for like different perspective and angles. The other one that I absolutely love is the Azaro head, because the planes of the head are super important when it comes to lighting. So everything that we're going to do tomorrow with coloring and lighting, Azaro head will help you with this. So you can imagine that here you have all sorts of planes of the face, and these can have different shape, different values later, different lighting. It's not so much for the sketching, although there are stuff that you can look at for the sketching, such as, I'll paint over this one, such as the cheekbone here, that line that is here. And the Azaro head has one simplify shapes on one side and one more defined shape on the other one. And you can think about all these as being like playing, like I really like this one, for example, for the eye, and then you have the flat value here that comes. You have a little bit of the mouth. You can see like there's a form here, but it's even more apparent in the next one, the Riley one. And then just different planes for the forehead that are important to help you bounce the light where it needs to be, and then the flat plane on the side. Being able to just understand these basic planes will really do a ton to your portraits, but in terms of like realism and being able to paint from imagination eventually. And the last one that I like to use is the Riley method. The Riley method, I like it because it's all about roundness of the flow line. You have just round eyes, basically, like you put the eyeballs basically, and then you have the round shapes around the mouth, because it's very rounded here if you're looking at the anatomy, and it just kind of plays with all these round shapes, and it's super interesting to play within your sketches. So those are the 3 ones that I absolutely love to paint. This is very in surface right now, but I'm going to show you how I use them in my sketches to give you a demo about it. And again, I'll ask any and all question that you have afterwards. So let's jump right in. I'm going to mask this. And I'm going to start with, I think I'm going to do this guy. There was a lot of votes for this guy, and I think he has a good base. Also, if you are somewhat of a beginner when it comes to portraiture, I would always suggest you to start with a male, a young male that you can see the bone structure. This is going to help you a lot. So before I do the sketch, here's what I do in my mind. I first try to look for the basic shapes. So I'm looking at like the geometry of it all kind of thing. So I'm seeing the nose as being one shape that does about this. I'm seeing the forehead that does that. I'm seeing like that jawline here that's very prominent, that creates like a triangle on the side. Sorry, Instagram, you don't see. Let's put this here. I look at all of these. I look at the mustache, the shape of the mustache. I'm looking at the shape of the eyes, what they are doing. I try to simplify things in my mind. Just a round shape for the ear. I'm looking at obviously at these round shape for the hair. And all of these kind of form almost like a puzzle. And what you want to do when you're going to sketch them is to kind of put the puzzle together. So it's a good idea to really start with these kind of shapes from the beginning. So I'm going to put that to the side now and start sketching. let's put this here. And so I'm going to start with, sometimes depending on the portrait, what I like to do is to start with the Loomis method, just because it helps me to kind of like gauge the size the portrait will have on my canvas. Then I'm thinking about the line of the eyebrows. Again, why? Because this is going to help me with perspective. So I'm looking at the two eyebrows and the line, and that's about the angle that I'm seeing right now. I also like to sometimes just putting like a cross for the nose. So that gives me like the basic, and then I can also put the Loomis like side of the skull, because what the Loomis method says is that you have a ball, and then on both sides of the head, because the head is not perfectly sphered, you kind of chop one bit, and that goes away, and then you're basically left with, you know, like wicked side. This is a bit too much of a side, but just to give you like an example, right? So you kind of take out a piece out of it. So that's what this plane represents here. And then I have the nose, and then I can kind of like, I'm looking at like the entire shape of the head a little bit, trying to think about, okay, where's the jaw here? And all of this is going to go in the middle. He's got a pretty big chin. But I'm not going into details. I'm not trying to stop myself putting shapes. The forehead, that is very like squarish. I'm going to put the jawbone a little bit here to help me. And now I'm going to start mixing things a little bit. I might just put the ear before, just a little circle here. I might start mixing things. Like I'm seeing like, you know, that triangle that I was talking earlier about. That's kind of here. I'm going to place, I feel like this should be just a bit lower. And I'm just going to place like the eyes, like having these two spheres here. It doesn't, it's no details, but it's a little bit like the Riley method where he has like the spheres. For the nose, I'm literally going to put kind of a pyramid shape. And this is just like as a placement. So just like a pyramid shape. I'm not trying to be also like, to be perfect with my proportion from the get-go. I kind of let loose, and I know, I trust the process, and I know it's going to get there. The mustache, I think, is a pretty good shape to put. It helps me with it all. The half kind of circle of the mouth kind of thing. And I'm starting to have some shape. I'm going to place maybe the eyebrow that goes up to here. This one, kind of like this. Just a little bit of the hairline that comes here. I might try to place the shapes that I'm seeing for, see a little bit of the ear, I think, on this side. And the hair kind of does that, more or less. Right now it's all just big shapes. And even if they're not perfectly, and like I got too much forehead, I can take pieces, and this is what I called, this is the first sketch that I called geometric sketch. So it's more like a loose sketch with geometric shapes, and everything is up for like debate here at this point. I take some pieces sometime like this one, and I'm going to like just kind of transform it a little bit if I see that things are kind of wrong, moving things around. I keep my marks very big as well, like I have a big brush tip to help me, and I don't want to go into details, so I got to be careful here to not let myself go into like starting to pull fine. I just want to have like the basic forms, the basic shapes. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to add a little bit more of these hair kind of shapes. And I think this is pretty good for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and just make it bigger on my page. So that's it. So that's the first step. Is there's a bit of Riley method in this. There's a bit of Azaro head. The planes of the face are a little bit there. Like this side is like a plane of the Azaro head. Same thing with this kind of thing. All of these kind of planes that I'm seeing. And there's a bit of Loomis method all built together. And it gives me that. Now, I want to show you a technique that I wanted to teach you today that I call the erase technique. Basically, what I do is instead of creating a new sketch on top of this one, I like to use the same one. I'm going to make a copy here just so you see the step-by-step afterwards, but I'm going to use my soft eraser. That's the one that you can get. I have it in all my basic brushes, so you can get it in the Daily 5 brushes. You can get it in the portrait brushes as well. It's a soft round brush, and I'm going to just softly kind of erase. And this is a great technique for making like sketches that are going to look better with time, because the more you kind of delete some parts, it's going to just add that, I don't know, that depth to your sketch, and you'll see. So I'm going to delete this and I'm going to start painting on top of it. And at this point, I want to go not into completely details, but I already have my roadmap. So I'm going to do things like making sure that the eyes have a little bit more of shape, but I'm not going into like a ton of details just yet. I'm going to place like a little bit more, more, I don't want to say details, but I guess it's detail, but it's more like shapes, like smaller shapes, basically. I'm going for like smaller shapes. I'm still creating shapes like the tip of the nose here, like just to represent the roundness of it all. I'm going to put a ball here, and I'm trying to measure also with my eye a little bit. Now these shapes are there just to help me to visualize the proportions of it all. And I'm sure I'm going to have some things that sometimes I hear, I'm like, all right, so that could be a little bit bigger maybe. And I'm going to flip it later on, and there's going to be still some mistake. The idea is, instead of trying to do everything perfectly from the get-go and stressing about it, you just kind of trust you trust the process, basically. So I'm going to add just a little bit more on this. I don't want to paint hair. That's a detail that you don't want to do, but I can do a few lines like I did here for the eyebrow, and you can even like sometimes like just thicken them a little bit to just kind of create the basic shapes. It's going to help you visualize when you put values, because again, like I was saying, we don't see lines on a portrait. What we see is values, colors, forms. All of these are kind of 3D. So sometimes putting just a little bit of value on an eyebrow like this will really help. Adding just a little bit more details. And now I'm going to kind of loosen up and think about like, I'm going to use these little lines like this to help define curves, such as the cheekbone that I just did here. I see like a little bit of lines here. I might put that a little bit. The bags under the eyes, or the lower eyelids, because he doesn't really have bags. A bit of the side of the nose here. And this is not going to be my final one. This is kind of like the midpoint. So it's like it's a three sketch process that I like to do all of my sketches. Except if I don't have much time, then I can go and sometimes I would use literally this one. So let's kind of do that. The mustache again, the shape of the mustache is important. I can add a little bit of like a suggestion that there's hair here, but I'm not going to start adding like all the hair. I'm trying to keeping like just the shape of the mustache. kind of full. Kind of see the inside of the mouth. And each of the steps should take a little bit longer than the next one. So let's do this like this. I want to capture like the basic hair pattern without, again, painting hair necessarily. This guy has a little bit of beard that starts here, kind of thing. Defining the ear a little bit more. And I'll take questions before I show the last steps, just so you guys have questions in between those two. Trying to define a little bit more the hair. Again, not going into the trap of painting hair, but the basic kind of locks of hair, I'm going to try to show them. Hair patterns and stuff. Don't focus on being perfect. Try to focus on finding shapes that are interesting, like the haircut. I'm not trying to be like the perfect circle necessarily. I'm just trying to find some interesting shapes that kind of work well together. That's the crack here. We have this here, that kind of there. Let's flip it. It's not perfect. This eye is a little bit either too small or too big. I could put it bigger, I think. I think that's slightly better. My nose could be like rework, but I'm not going to work that just right now because that's not the sketch for it. I'm going to put just the eyes with a little bit of value. This is going to help me to see things. And I can have some fun sometimes to just like put shapes. This is based on, well, cheekbones not really, but I like sometimes to put like a circle here. That's based on the Riley method, or just showing the planes of the forehead a little bit here. I'm trying to make sure that I understand the geometric, basically, of all of this. We have the cheekbone here. All right. So that's step 2. I'm gonna do step 3 right after this. But if you have any questions right now, I would love to take some to make me sure that I can see them with more ease. If you could be so amazing to put a capital Q in front of them, it just helps me to see them. So yeah, just making sure I'm seeing you guys on Instagram as well. Make hair. Make hair. Yeah. Louis' method is good when drawing from imagination, but to me, it lacks individual feature from the beginning. It looks a bit generic. Same face syndrome. You're absolutely right. That's why I like to mix all of them together, and I usually spend a lot of time on geometric shapes from the get-go. It really helps. I see a question from Ryan. Which method do you prefer? Do you prefer to start with the head, Loomis or Riley? I prefer the Loomis method just because it helps me with having the size of the head on my canvas. Because the cranium being a ball that you start with, it really just helped to be like, okay, it's going to be about that size, and then I can place the line of the eyebrow in there and everything. It helps me with this. But truthfully, I like the combo of all of these techniques together. Otherwise, one technique is just, it's too restrictive. Like Make Hair on Instagram was saying, it becomes like all the faces are the same. if you're doing it perfectly. And the idea is for me is to always do it with like, you want to be as close as possible, but with a little bit of loose in there. It helps you develop your own style. It develop also like not feeling stress all the time about doing something perfectly. You can just give it a go and have fun with it. So Riano, is it okay to use a combination of all these methods? Yes, absolutely. They are there for that, right? That's why you should always learn from a lot of teachers, really, to see how they interpret these techniques into their own flow to learn from it. Sharon, hi, how you doing? I have a question about the first line, the first lines. So is it the eyes line in the middle or of the circle or the eyebrow? I believe it's the eyebrow. It's the eyebrow line. So from the eyebrow to about the tip of the nose to the chin, these in the Azaro head are same distance. And then the same from eyebrow to, well, when you have hair, the line of the hair. These are like basic construction method. These are all described in details in some of my classes that are right now. I'm having a flash sale this weekend and a little bit next week. I'll talk about it in a few minutes. I want to finish the demo first. But if you are interested in those, I'll have them. I really teach them in a lot of classes because they're very important to understand. Once you understand them, you're able to interpret them and find your own style through them. Mia, what you're doing here is great for when you have a reference, but do you have any tip on drawing from imagination? The same techniques that I'm showing you, there's the same technique from imagination. The big difference between the two of them is that I'm trying to interpret a reference, really. I know a lot of people think that reference and from imagination are not going together, but it's the complete opposite as well. I want to say this. If you're trying to paint something completely from imagination, without reference, you're going to have a hard time. Now, having multiple reference for, let's say, a portrait that you want to do from imagination, that's how I would do it. Having a reference for the haircut, a reference maybe for the features of the face, a reference for the hair pattern, a reference for the skin tone, a reference for the facial expression, and you can place these all together into one final portrait if you want. And with the techniques that I just showed you, what it's going to give you is just the base to be able to analyze all of these references, to be able to interpret them into your own style. But it would be a mistake for you to do it necessarily without reference from the get-go. This is getting frustrating. It's with practicing of references and studies and practicing these kind of basic construction method that I just showed you that you'll be able eventually to paint from imagination without any problem. But rest assured that 100% of the artists that you're following on Instagram right now probably use references, even if it's from imagination. The references are there to inspire, to give cues for anatomy, for different style, for expressions. But doing it from your mind, there's very little artists out there that are able to do it. And believe me, before they were able to do it, they were doing a lot of studies from references. So don't feel bad to use references is what I'm trying to say. Asokatano, hi. How do you search for references for a good with good shapes? It's a bit of the three methods that I showed you, okay? Because you're gonna have like the Azaro head, the Loomis method, and the Riley method that shows you a little bit of the pattern of the shapes, and then it's about observation. You know, when you're looking at this guy, for example, you know, like you can see that there is things that come to your eye more than others. The eyebrow is one, right? So like putting some accent on that is one. The cheekbone here is very prominent. That's another one. The very well-trimmed mustache and well-groomed hair. All of these forms shapes. These are not the construction things that I just showed you from the Loomis and Riley method. These are just observation that you will get by understanding not only to observe, but understanding also three-dimensional objects. A haircut is not a bunch of strings of hair. A haircut is it's a 3D thing that you want to render, light on top of it, kind of thing. That's how you should approach it. Let me know if that makes sense. I'm seeing also people on Instagram. Let me just check. Sorry, there's questions. Sorry, guys, on Instagram. I don't want to ignore any of you. Started to use more references and Lumi's method for heads, portrait. It helps a lot. Says David 626. Yes. My hair, it comes to facial expression. I like to start with detailed eye. I kind of would not suggest starting with just eyes. When it comes to facial expression, I like to do this. If you start with just eyes, it's going to be hard for you to do the proportion of the entire portrait. I see more questions on YouTube. I'm going to just continue the portrait now, and I'll come back at you guys. So right now we have the base, okay? The last step is basically a tracing of what's already there. It's going to be just refining my lines, and then I'm going to transform a few things using some liquify if needed to modify a little bit the portrait to make sure that it's like exactly where I want it to be. But this is the 20%. Sorry, that's the 80. What is it? 20-80 rule. It's the 20% that gives 80% results. So that's the 20% that gives 80% results, or the 80-20 rule. Essentially, this right here is enough for you to start a portrait with adding colors to it. But if you are a little bit more on a beginner side, then the next step I'm going to show you is crucial because it's going to help you to just really understand where you're going to put your lines later on. I don't know why I'm receiving phone calls. So let's get ready with this. So again, what I want to show you here is the method that I like to use, what I call the erase method. I'm going to paint on the same layer again. I'm going to make a copy just so you see like the different stages of all of this, but I'm going to use my eraser soft round brush, and I'm just going to erase around it just to give like basically some transparency. You could put the layers and transparency would do the same thing, but I kind of like to paint on top of the same portrait. And I'm going to go slow, slightly a little bit closer this time. And the idea is to not paint tiny details, but to get closer with my lines. And this is going to show me like places where I want to focus on like the precise shapes of the eyes, for example, to help me like getting the expression just perfect. And it's the place where I'm going to have a hard time chalking and painting at the same time because I'll get concentrated a little bit. Things like placing the eyelids on top of my eye here, important. Obviously the eye, but I'm not going to add too many details. Like I'm not going to paint eyelashes, for example. Eyelashes will come later on. And it's more about adding the lines that I need. Maybe I'm a little bit too close here. Adding the lines that I need to render like light and colors later on. So sometimes I'm going to keep like empty shapes, like a little bit here. I think I'm going to keep that shape empty. But I just want to look at what I already have. And I'm almost kind of, like I was saying, almost kind of tracing what I already done. Because if I did a good job at this stage, I'll be able to just kind of trace over what I have. So yeah, like again, like I was saying, it's going to be hard for me to start talking now. So I'll do my best. But while I'm doing this, let me say what I would love for you guys to do this weekend is to do a portrait and follow the steps, the 2-day steps. So today we're going to do sketches. Tomorrow we're going to do coloring. And what I'd love for you to do is to do a portrait with me and then go post the portrait into the tribe that we have on Discord. You can get a link to the tribe by doing !Discord in the chat in the chat on YouTube, and that's going to give you a link to the community, or you're gonna have also a link in the description of the video. But anyhow, and go post it there. And what I would love to go is to go see your portrait next week, essentially after the weekend, and to maybe give you guys some feedback if you want some. So it would be great. And I might do either a live and give some feedback next week, or a video, or just gives you some feedback inside the tribe directly. Whatever I decide to do, it'll be there to help you guys. So once I do the eyes and I'm happy with them, it's always easier. I'm gonna keep these shapes like kind of empty because he's blondish, so I'm happy with the nose. And here's what's the details to leave out. Like, you don't want to add too much to it. It's all about like adding just enough so you understand the 3D forms that are there. Like, there's a little bit of like, he's got like some form here. I could kind of show that a little bit with a more delicate line. I don't want to attract too much attention, but the eyes, I would like to attract more attention. So having the eyes just a little bit more darker is going to help with this. For the mustache, at this point, I want to kind of like maybe brush within the direction of the hair. So I'm kind of like looking a little bit of the direction of the hair, and I'm trying to establish just a little bit, a few strings of hair, but I don't want to do lines everywhere, just a little bit. And I want to think about the shapes. A mustache is not a bunch of small like lines like this. It's cluster of hair that are like a haircut, right? Think about a mustache like you should give a mustache a haircut, right? So there's like a little bit of a cluster of hair here that I'm seeing. There's another one here, kind of another one here. The twist on the side. I think he has like twisty mustache. And then we have like the mouth here that starts, and there's the inside lip here, and then the inside of the mouth that we're seeing here, like this. I'm not going to draw the teeth. That's a detail I'm going to leave out because it's going to be easier to add the teeth by adding value later. So the lips, I feel like lips could be a little bit bigger, but I think that's fine. Just adding, again, I'm trying to like design, I'm seeing like shapes into his hair, and so I want to establish that shape a little bit. There's the thickness of the hair here. I don't want to add too much details here. I'll paint some value later. I think that's pretty good. And at this point, I'm just going to finish by adding just a few more lines. And hopefully you already see what I was talking about with the erase technique. You see how it feels like there's depth to the portrait because you have these lines that I've been using for the geometric shapes, for the loose sketch, all of that like under it, and it gives like more volume to the entire face. So that's something that I absolutely love to do. And if you are a little bit of a beginner, I want to give a little bit of an encouragement here. My proportions are not perfect, and neither should you try to have like perfect proportion from the get-go. Try to focus on shape, design, structural techniques to help you kind of get better at doing the 80-20, which is the step before that, really. Because what I'm doing here, really, it's just polishing a sketch to make it like slightly better. But what I had right before this was all I needed to start a portrait. I think we have a little bit of an ear here. I don't know how much, but just a little bit. Now I can add a little bit more maybe of lines here, maybe push certain lines to help me. I like to usually add like lines that help to understand the three-dimensional aspect of the portrait, but everything is pretty much here for me. Ears again, I don't want to add too many lines here. This is going to be about value later. Here I'm just going to put a few lines, but really again, that's going to be painted with values later. And then I can flip it, see how it looks. It doesn't look too bad. There's a few things that I see that I don't like. One of them is the hair here. I feel like this is attracting too much attention. I'm going to raise it a little bit and maybe simplify the shape a little bit. At the same time, I don't want to take too much, but and flipping your illustration is good. Be sure to also flip your reference picture, because sometimes you're gonna flip your portrait and you're gonna think, oh my god, it's crooked, and then you flip the reference picture, you're like, you know what, maybe it's his face also a little bit. So don't get to that stage without flipping both of them. And now I'm going to do what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the portrait into Liquify. Don't be ashamed to use Liquify. It's not about being perfect on the first go. It's about being able to see the mistakes and correct them. You'll get better with time. So I'm seeing the face almost like needs to be like just push, but not the eye necessarily. So I'm having like, there's a bit of an angle as well, that maybe the eye needs to be a little bit more of an angle. Sometimes you just start pushing stuff around and eventually it makes more sense. And again, I'm not going to try to make it perfect. Just moving some stuff, like the hair, for example. I feel like there's things because it needs to be thicker there. But maybe also the face. I think the eye needs to be pushed here. This needs to be smaller. The nose could need a little love. I feel like the jaw here is missing. Like I need a corner of the jaw here. Trying to push this a little. The chin perspective can be pushed a little. That seems better. The mouth could be pushed a little. And I think the eye could be pushed a little as well. Again, small details. I'll flip it, and that's pretty good. That's gonna be my final sketch to start coloring tomorrow. That's it. I'm pretty happy with this. All right, you guys, if you have more questions, I'm going to go back into the chat now. If you have some more, let me know. I see a few that were there from earlier. Dan, you were saying, I do the sketch. I use opacity of layers. Or do you final sketch? I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same if you put your layer to opacity. It's absolutely the same. Lamina, how you doing? Lisa, yeah. Thank you for the stream. You're absolutely welcome. Isabel, question. Do you have any advice for shapes for hair and simplify them? Find it hard to make sometimes organic and round feel as geometric as the face or the... Yeah, so the trick with hair is just to think about it as, yeah, really like a 3D form, a 3D shape. And I'm not gonna lie, it's also hard for me because hair will take some different forms and different shapes. But the best trick that I can give you is to start with a good tracing. Start with tracing. It helps your brain to understand and visualize 3D. Let me just put that bigger. Like when you're doing like just a tracing of like the basic forms, you can think of this as, you know, I'm gonna put the layer of white, transparency, new layer, paint with black. So think about it this way, like all of these are geometric forms, right? And you can do like the cross contour lines to kind of understand like, all right, so this is a form here. And then you have like almost like this shape here. It's almost like a plane that is almost like kind of flat, like it's turning inside like this. And just doing like a basic tracing like this will help you to kind of understand a little bit better the shape that you see. Think about like each different locks of hair, and you can think about like, all right, so this kind of almost like turns away from me into kind of like that direction. So it's like volume, there's a volume here kind of thing, if that makes sense. And it's about understanding 3D in your head, which is why everybody has a hard time with it, because it's pretty rare that when you think portrait and organic shapes and anatomy that you think cubes and cylinder and in spheres and whatever. But really understanding like the basic forms, like how is this head fitting into a box, for example, right? And this is why like having the trick of the eyebrow that gives you a mark and then connecting to your ears tells me that we're slightly above this portrait, and that the perspective of the head here is kind of something like this. Now, this is a trick that I give into the 1 week portrait masterclass. And this is the perfect time for me to talk about the flash sale real quick before I continue with the questions. Bam, we have a flash sale right now, 75% off the portrait artist bundle. This is a bundle where I put literally all my best portrait related classes. And it's usually, usually a good deal on it, but I want to make sure once a year that I can reach as many people as possible that really want to improve in their portraits if you participate into the 1 week portrait masterclass at some point, you know that the quality is there. Well, that's just one of the 13 class included in the bundle. And right now you can get it all until the 1st of August at 75% off. If you're interested in this, you only have to go check the registration page, or you can, in the chat right now, you can put !bundle. !bundle. It's going to pop up a link, but otherwise there's probably a link in the description as well. The deal is going to be there until the 1st of August, and then it's going to go back to the original price. But I really want you to go have a look, because I know how the Portrait Artist Bundle made fantastic. I mean, you know what? Let's go check it out together for a second, and I'll come back with the question afterwards, because I also made sure to add some of the work of the students that participated in it. So let's just go check it out real quick. So if you go down the page, you'll have, here there's a video that shows you every classes that's included in it. Then you have 6 blocks basically. Today we're going to talk about sketching. Tomorrow we're going to talk about coloring. There's a lot more to be talked about into those 2 things. Obviously, everything that I don't have the time to put within an hour, which we already passed, is going to be in the bundle. So a lot more about the techniques that I just showed you about the Loomis method and Azaro head and Riley method. I have a giant module about rendering. I do it in black and white because understanding value is so much important. But then you go into coloring module. I have a whole module on skin tones to help you with all sorts of different skin tones and how to add these different hue variation to make sure that they're very alive. And I have also an entire class in there about facial expressions, understanding the muscles of the face, being able to play with them and all of that. You'll be able to just check each description of each of the bundle in there also. The classes are there. And here's the places I want to show you. So this is a kind of a mixed match of the 1 week portrait masterclass and portrait from the students that took in there. You can see that there's some really cool some really cool portrait in there. And right now we have 75% off. And I made sure to have a payment plan to help everybody, because yesterday I announced it and someone came back to me asking if I could make a payment plan. I added today. So if you want, you can get it all at 75% off for $227 or just 3 payment of $99. I'm hoping that this is going to help everyone that wants it. If you have any question, let me know. But otherwise, you can do !bundle to get a link. Otherwise, there's a link also in the description. Today is all that I wanted to show you guys. So if you have any questions before I let you go with the rest of your day or your Saturday, hopefully to do an awesome sketch, let me know. I'll answer all the questions that you have, guys. I can give you some more example as well. Let's go back to the questions before. Silent. Any exercise method you recommend to improve lines? I find hard to control pen pressure on and the line weight. Yes. Let me just move that away for a second. So you might be surprised, but I'm not good at line either. I'm having a hard time each time, and so I totally understand the struggle. When it comes to line work, for me, having the right brush helps, first of all. Having the right settings on your tablet also helps a lot. Like I could have my tablet to be like having more pressure on it or less pressure. This is going to help you a lot. So no matter the tablet that you have, go check your settings and do some testing for what feels better to you. And then what you want to do is really just to practice basic stuff, really basic stuff, like making a circle where you have one side that's thick, one side that it's not thick, just like I did right here. Or thinking about like making a cube, you know, perspective, and thinking about like, okay, so where's the shadow at the bottom? You have like a thicker shadow to represent the occlusion shadow, and trying to have the control over it. It's about It's about mindfully pressing and not pressing. And I'm having a hard time with this. This is also why, because this is why I love this technique that I showed you today, because it allows me to really just go like with whatever pressure that I have, with all the gesture in the world, with like the raw feeling that I have when I'm doing the portrait, and not have the consequences of having thicker line at the wrong places. I'm able to delete them basically and then go back with a little bit more finesse. So let me know if this is helpful to you. Saint Wisen, I use, where is that? Fireplace, and I don't think it has a liquify tool. What does it do? The liquify tool basically just helps to kind of modify things, just pushing pixels, basically. That's what it does. It's very useful when you're painting something and you've been spending a lot of hours on it, and then you realize at some point, you know what, it's crooked a little bit. The liquify will help you to just kind of push things a little bit to bring them back where they're supposed to be. Question from, sorry, it's jumped a little bit. I don't know where I am now. Answer that. Yes, I answered that. Ashokatano, will you do a portrait workshop again? I heard it is really good when you do it. Well, if you're talking about the 1 week portrait challenge, I don't know. Right now we've been doing the 1 week character challenge, and what I did is I made the 1 week portrait challenge masterclass available, which by the way is included into the flash sale that we have right now. It's one of the 13 classes included in it, but you can also visit the store at paintable.cc/store to see the classes there, and the 1 week portrait masterclass is in there as well. So that's the class that you're referring to, I'm assuming, that people say is good, because it is. Isabella, awesome, thank you for the advice. I really appreciate it. You're absolutely welcome. No, portrait challenge, I mean the 1 week portrait line. There you go, yes, that's the one that you were talking about. Soriano, thank you so much for this live. I really appreciate it. Value. Well, you're absolutely welcome. Come back tomorrow. We'll do some colors. Isabella, I need to go, but thank you. You're absolutely welcome. Have a great Saturday, guys. If you guys still have to leave. MZ, where do you find references picture with good quality and interesting perspective? These days, Pinterest is my place to be. There's really everything there. Just try to dig a little bit deeper when you're doing your Pinterest search. Do a bunch of search, then click on the picture. It would give you like reference of the same caliber kind of thing. And try to look for interesting like shapes. What I like about the one that I choose for today, for example, is you have very interesting like shapes. I took one here to help everyone, to give you like a good example on something that's more or less easy because there's a lot of bone structures, but I also really like to have like much different style that I would like to actually push, because it's fun to just have some fun with textures, with shapes. You're looking at this, for example, you can start with just like a round shape, place maybe that triangle here, place another kind of like shape for the nose right there. You have like the tiny eyes, and it's just fun to kind of let loose and not have to kind of be away from this same face syndrome kind of thing. And I'm just kind of playing with shapes at this point. I'm just gonna have a little fun here as an exercise. And like I started with like a round shape, and now I'm using the same technique that I was talking about, where I delete a little bit, and then I'm looking at like, all right, so I think there's more like a big cheekbone here, kind of the jaw, and then that's very rounded. This guy has a kind of like a tiny mouth, but with very volumetric lips, kind of thing. And it's fun to start these sketches without the fear of failing, I think. Because I think it's very crippling for every artist, me included, that when you start something, you're like, oh, I need to do something good. Like, no, just start with a big shape. Have some fun. Just push things around. For as long as you keep in mind the techniques that I showed you today, such as the Azzaro head, the Loomis method, these kind of thing, then you kind of let loose a little bit and just kind of have some fun. And slowly but surely, you're going to create portraits that look like the reference that you have, but at the same time have more personality. I feel like this ear should be there. And it's interesting to play with, is what it is. A few shapes there. All right, just quick example like this. So yeah, Pinterest. Sorry, totally big tangent here to answer your question. But yeah, Pinterest is where I found my pictures these days. Drawing my first portrait, beginner. I'm finding my lines are too dark. Do I adjust the colors of the brush? Thank you. What you need is just a brush with the right settings. If you want to have the same brush that I'm using right now, you can just check the description of the video. There's probably a link for the Daily 5. Otherwise, you can do !Daily 5 in the chat. A link is going to pop up, or just look the links that are probably already there in the chat. If you scroll up, some of you guys did it already. I'm using the arrowhead, which is absolutely great for this. If your lines, when you're using it, are looking too dark, then it's your pressure sensitivity of your tablet or pen pressure that you have to work with. Can you also show us number 7? Yeah, I can definitely do that. Let's putting on the side, and let's have some more fun. So how I would do the number 7 is, again, because the Loomis method and Azzaro head and all of that is kind of lost here because she's got a lot of surplus of skin and fat tissues on her face. I'm going to start with a shape instead. And I'm still going to keep the structure of the face because it's still there, but I'm going to just start to kind of like think about like, all right, so this is going to be the shape first. I'm going to put a line to show me like the direction of the face kind of thing, and I'm going to start placing shapes like the nose, for example. I'm going to use the glasses that she has as a way to place my perspective. And I'm not going to stress too much about if the shape is perfect or not. It's like more or less. I'm going to place just a round kind of shape here for the mouth, but to catch the expression, I'm going to need these folds to be placed at the right places. Again, using the erase technique that I really like. Have this line. So now I have a bit of the perspective. I've had a bit of the direction of things. Now you add shapes that are needed. She has a little bit of a triangular kind of face. Seeing the cheekbone here a little bit. A bit of a fold here. She has very expressive eyebrows. And I'm kind of seeing like this shape in between the two eyebrows. So I'm going to help me with that shape first. Looking at a little bit of the distance between, I think my shape is wrong here, but looking at the distance between the glasses and the eyebrows to help me. And I'm doing these big shape here, and they don't have to be perfect, and I can like delete them a little bit here to kind of get back afterwards and just rework them a little bit. That's pretty close. There's a thickness to the glasses going to be important for me to kind of place the eyes, but I'm going to just kind of probably place like 2 balls through everything here to do the placement. The glasses are going all the way outside of the face here, so I got to be careful here to make sure that the glasses are big enough. I think on this side it's big enough. I feel like the proportions are right too, so maybe the eyebrow here needs to be smaller and the perspective a little bit. And trying to get the distance where the glasses are turning away. Deleting this. Looking at the shape of the hair pattern here to help me to place the face. By the way, if you're on Instagram here and you're wondering like what I'm painting, I'm having a reference picture. I'm on YouTube. And then from there I can look at like what I already have, and like I'm like, all right, so there's shapes here that I started with that now don't make sense. This should be kind of like following stuff like that. And it's a very challenging one, to be honest. I haven't painted a lot of plus size people, but also like the way she squeezes her face, there's a lot of it moves the facial features a lot. So just trying to get the basic forms, the basic shape. Like there's like the hair here that bulks. Just a few brush strokes like this. And that would be close to the 80-20. The proportions are not all there. I feel like the face could be squished a little. Maybe even more than that. I think that's closer. And that would be like the first sketch. Now from there, and I won't do it today because I'm taking a bit too much time today. But from there, what I'll do is I'd make sure to, yeah, just the hand and everything. I'd make sure to have another sketch on top of that and the final lines afterwards. But hopefully this is showing you like just the thought process, because this is where the most of the construction is made, is this sketch right here. Question from MZ. How do you select specific parts of the sketch and move it around? I'm using the lasso tool. When you're using the lasso tool, you can just take like a piece of your sketch and then you just transform it, and you're able to squeeze things, move things around. It just helps you a lot. One of the power of having a digital medium. Matter of fact, I'm looking at this. I'm like, maybe your face is smaller. Yeah. I think this is, maybe that's a little bit exaggerated, but just a little bit would be better, I think. So yeah, that's how I do it. Arcan says, thanks. You're absolutely welcome. Doing good on it. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. 5 minutes to the live. May, I'm sorry. It's about to finish. Can I ask about the academy? Yes, of course. Any question any question, you can shoot them out. I'll stay on for your question. Let me know. For everybody that's on Instagram, guys, I'm not ignoring you on purpose. Very sorry. If you have any questions, I'm just going to scroll down here. Art of Clark, do you ever draw digitally so much you find it weird to go back to traditional? I've worked on digital illustration for a long time, and sometimes I feel like I've gotten how to draw on paper. Absolutely. It's been a long time I draw on paper. I don't think I'd feel comfortable, and I'm pretty sure that my hand would go Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. So yeah, no, totally. I can totally relate to this. What is your YouTube channel called? It's called Paintable.cc or just Paintable. Just Paintable, I think. So if you do youtube.com/Paintable, it should go to my YouTube channel. Yeah. By the way, I'm moving from traditional and typical. Yes, moving from traditional to digital is a learning curve. Not to preach my own church, guys, but the bundle that I have at 75% off right now is really going to have everything. I also included, if you are a beginner with digital medium, all the beginner classes are included in it to teach you how to use shortcuts, how to use brush, how to make clean lines. All of the basics are there. Plus, on top of that, everything that I know about portraiture. It's really an amazing bundle. So if you are doing the switch, the traditional to digital, and you need some help, everything is in there. Just making sure that I didn't switch the questions on Instagram. I have trouble with woman hair since a lot of strands hair. Hair is about shape design. That's what I was teaching earlier, but sorry, trying to go there. Oh, David, I'll buy one of these sales. Awesome. Let me know what you think, but I'm very confident you're going to have a great time in it. It was very helpful. You're welcome. All right. Let me get back quickly to Photoshop. I'm seeing some chat popping in, questions. MZ, thanks a lot. also for answering the previous question. You're absolutely welcome. Droopy, do you cover gesture and body drawing too, or exclusively just portrait? The bundle I have right now is only about portraiture. If you want to learn about character, like body, kind of like whole body, there is a few classes inside the Digital Painting Academy. So you can join the Academy if you want. So the Academy is a membership website that runs all year, and the Portrait Artist Bundle is actually some of the classes from the Academy that I put in this bundle, and when you purchase it, this is one of the ways to get lifetime access to them. Otherwise, most of the classes that I create, I always put them in the membership for my students, and that's a membership. So the great deal about the great thing about the bundle is that all these classes that you purchase right now at 75% off, you get lifetime access to them. Tear fall. I wish you could use a lasso tool on traditional art. Pinch there. Yes, absolutely. All of the, once you do like one and you go back to the other one, you start feeling like you lose track. But it's really just about knowing your medium, right? No matter if it's traditional or digital, it's knowing your medium perfectly and knowing the shortcuts that you can do. Because even when you're doing traditional, there's ways around when you do mistakes, when you need to correct stuff. Obviously, not to the extent of digital medium, but it's really about knowing your your medium. AJ, is the sketch brushes available for Procreate, please? All the brushes that I'm using are built in Photoshop, but they are all compatible with Procreate. Since Procreate 5, every brushes in Photoshop are basically compatible. So all you have to do is download them on your iPad, drag them onto Procreate, and you'll be able to use them. You might have to tweak a few of them. Sometimes there's little changes that are not perfect, but the arrowhead, for example, for the sketching, it pretty much works the same way. Thank you. You're welcome, guys. I spam Control Z at this point. I think, yeah, no, 100%. The Control Z is the same thing. I never felt less confident as an artist than when I switched from pastel to digital. Yeah, it's a learning curve for sure. But once you passed it, it's fun. Soriano again, thank you. You're welcome. It's useful. Come tomorrow. We'll have some more. Nice stream. Keep doing the love. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for all the encouragement. I appreciate it. Any tips when art has become like a chore? Yeah. If you feel like your art has become a chore, it's either because you're putting too much pressure on your shoulders and you're trying to obtain a level like we all do, I guess, but without trying to jump too many steps. The best thing for me that always been when I feel like I'm just working at something is to simplify the steps. Small exercises really helps. This is how I build the Digital Painting Academy, guys. This is how I build all my classes, really. But it's always having a small technique and an exercise to help you. So instead of doing like illustrations and then having like kind of like the deception of not reaching what you want in your head, what you want to do is do quick exercises that don't take much time, that gets your creative juices kind of flow, and then as the momentum keeps on building and the confidence keeps on building, you're going to get better, and with more skills, more fun. And so it's really just a question of having fun with what you're doing. If you want some exercises, you can join either any of my classes. There's always an exercise attached to them. I never teach something without also giving an exercise to help you put into practice what you already have learned. Or you can join the Daily 5 challenges, which is to paint a small prompt every day. This is completely free. You can join the tribe. There is a link in the description. The tribe is the community that we have at Paintable. MZ, I use Sketchbook program, and would the brushes be compatible? I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. They might not. These days, a lot of brushes are compatible, but they're not compatible with every software, unfortunately. Me, I'm doing the auto portrait right now. Never looked better. Thank you. You're absolutely welcome. I'm glad. I had a lot of fun doing my auto portrait this year as well. On this video, I'm assuming during the live. All right, sounds good. Art of Saying, you are welcome. So all right, guys, thank you so much for joining. I'm hoping to see you guys tomorrow for the coloring. I'll be doing the same portrait that I did before this one. So this one, so you can see how I approach it. Again, I'm going to approach it with the 80-20 rule. So the 20% skills that gives 80% results. I'm not going to push into details. If you want the next step for everything I'm going to teach you this weekend, everything is going to be in the bundle. And truly, guys, this flash sale that I'm doing, I'm not doing it often. I do it about once a year, if so. Sometimes I don't even do it at all. So if you want to take it, really, it's the biggest deal I ever get. I do a lot of deals sometimes for the holidays, but this one is definitely one of the biggest. I have 13 classes in there. They're one of my best classes from the DPA. You get lifetime access for it and a fraction of the price. You get also 30 days to try it all, so you really don't have anything to lose. I'll see you guys tomorrow for coloring. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy your weekend. Be sure to do a quick portrait and post it in the tribe because I want to see it as well. Have a good one, guys. Happy painting.